Hi, and welcome to EC&M Tech Talks, brought to you by EC&M Magazine. This is a series of how-to videos where we cover everything from basic electrical theory to the equipment that we install and maintain out in the field to the various codes and standards that govern the installation and maintenance of that equipment. These Tech Talks are brought to you by EC&M Magazine. That's Electrical Construction and Maintenance Magazine. What you need to do, if you haven't already, is go to the ecmweb.com website. That's ecmweb.com, and you'll find a drop-down menu on the upper left-hand side of the screen. Click on that menu, and the very first item that comes up is going to be premium content. And you want to click on premium content, and here's why. You're going to find, if you sign up for premium content, that not only are you going to find all of these Tech Talk video series that we do, but you'll find a whole bunch of information that's related to the topic. There are any webinars, articles, and so on and so forth, as well as you'll find lots of other information and videos and whatnot, all related to our electrical trade. And the best part, it's free. So click on that premium content link and make sure that you get signed up. I'm Randy Barnett. I'm your facilitator for this Tech Talk video. I'm a journeyman electrician, a trainer, electrical textbook author, and today we're going to be talking about MC cable, metal-clad cable, and it's covered in Article 330 of the National Electrical Code. Article 330 is entitled Metal-Clad Cable, Type MC. Now, metal-clad cable, MC cable, we use it everywhere pretty much. I mean, don't we? We certainly use it in a lot of commercial and industrial applications, and we use it in some dwelling unit residential applications as well. We're going to start by looking at 330.1. 330.1 is the section. Oh, and by the way, as we go through this Article 330, it's laid out just like all of the other cable and raceway articles. 330.1 is the scope. .2 is definitions. .10 is uses permitted. .12 is uses not permitted. .30 is securing and support requirements and so forth. So anyway, 330.1 gives us the scope for Article 330. And it says it covers the installation, the use, and the construction specifications of metal-clad cable. So we're actually going to start with the construction specifications. Part 1 is general information of Article 330. Part 2 is installation requirements. And Part 3 is construction specifications. So we'll start with the Part 3, construction specifications. And we're going to cover a lot more information than what is covered in Part 3. Anyway, we'll talk about that as we go. So MC type cable, it's constructed, the sheath itself can be either metal or aluminum, and both, advantages and disadvantages. And then there are 3 types of construction of the cable itself. What I have here is an interlocking metal tape type of construction. So this is, and I just kind of pulled it apart. And if you've worked with MC cable, you know how this is. It just stretches on out, you pull it and pull it. And then, of course, you cut this off and throw it away and terminate your cable. But anyway, this is just some metal tape, and it's wrapped around on top of each other so that it's what it looks like right here, interlocking metal tape. Now, one thing, if you think about it, just, getting a little ahead of ourselves here, but look at that. Do you think that's going to make a good equipment grounding conductor? Oh, maybe not, huh? If I bend it too far, I can break it, so forth, and pull it apart. So probably not going to want to use this as the equipment grounding conductor. Now, there are 2 other types of construction of type MC cable. They're both, think of them as continuous tubes. One has a smooth outer finish, so it's just simply a smooth type continuous metal sheath and metallic sheath. And then there is the corrugated type metallic sheath, where it is continuous. It's not a tape like this. It looks very much like the interlocking tape type, but it's not. It's a continuous corrugated material on a metallic material on the outside of it. So anyway, 3 different types of construction. And that's going to make some differences, in applications and so forth. In fact, right away, if you think about it, I bet I don't want to take this interlocking metal tape type and put it out in a wet location, huh? But what maybe if I had what if I had the corrugated type that looks very much like this, as I said, but it's continuous, so I can't break it open. So it's solid the whole way down. Well, that might be good where I'm going to have it exposed to some moisture or maybe gases and vapors or something like that. So we'll talk a little more about that. In fact, what we're going to do is we can also, if we wanted to, well, the manufacturer would put a polymer sheath over the outside, PVC type sheath, and that would give it some different properties. It could make it suitable for a wet location, underground direct burial, perhaps burial in concrete and so forth. And of course, all that has to be identified with the product, either on the product itself, but usually on the roll or the spool that it came on, something like that. Okay. Now, so that's kind of in a nutshell our metal sheath. Then let's start talking about the conductors on the inside. First of all, our conductors are bound together with this transparent, in this case, it's a plastic type, or Mylar is a trade name you'll hear on it, type sheath that it binds the conductors together and holds them together. The conductors themselves, let's talk about the conductors themselves. The conductors can be either number 18 or 16 copper or nickel plated copper, and aluminum sizes, they're going to be size 12 and on up from there. So I can have 18 or 16 copper, I can have copper clad aluminum, and of course the nickel plating. By the way, the reason that we have nickel plated conductors, corrosion resistance. Also, it's very stable when it comes to excessive heat. I think nickel plated copper, it remains stable to something up like 1300 and some odd degrees Fahrenheit. So really hot. We'd never want our conductors to get that hot, would we? Okay. So anyway, so the smaller gauge size, now if you think about it, 14 AWG, that is the smallest premises wiring size conductors that we can use. So what do we use 18 and 16 for? Control wiring, huh? So actually in Article 330, it's going to reference this to Article 725, which is on control and signaling class 1, 2, and 3 power supplies and wiring methods and all of that. So anyway, it does reference this to Article 725. Now, as far as the type of insulation, on most of the metal-clad cables that we work with, probably THHN or THWN is what we're going to use. However, in the smaller sizes, 18 and 16, you have to go to Article 402, which is on fixture wire. And there it's going to give you the table 402.3 actually lists all the different types of insulation for fixture wires, which would include the 18 and 16 when they're used inside of the metal-clad sheathing. Now, let's see, equipment grounding conductors. Let's talk about that. We said it's probably not a good idea to use this interlocking metal tape as an equipment grounding conductor, is it? And however, we said that we could use maybe the other two types. Where it's going to tell us all this information, we got to go back to Article 250 on grounding and bonding, specifically 250.18. 250.18 tells us the types of equipment grounding conductors we can use. In fact, 250.18 item number 10 then talks about MC cable. And it says that there are only 3 cases where we can actually use the outer sheath of the MC cable as the equipment grounding conductor. And well, actually 3 cases we can use metal-clad cable as an equipment grounding conductor. So certainly I have a green insulation on a copper wire inside of this MC cable. That obviously can be used as my equipment grounding conductor. Also, I could have a bare copper or aluminum wire in there. That may be used as my equipment grounding conductor. Or I could take an interlocking tape type like this, or one of the other 2 types as well, the either corrugated continuous or the smooth continuous. And they could, when they manufacture it on the outside of the Mylar sheath, in this case, they could run, say, an aluminum bare aluminum conductor the entire length of the MC cable. And it would be in contact with all of these, convolutions throughout the entire MC cable. Then we could use the sheath of the metal-clad cable as the equipment grounding conductor. Now I have to terminate it properly. Don't get this MC cable confused with AC armored cable, type AC. The armored cable has a thin copper wire, number 14, right? And we might wrap that around a couple of the convolutions and put the fitting on and so forth, whatever it is that manufacturer's instructions require us to do. With the MC cable, if I have that aluminum conductor sticking out, all I do is I'd certainly cut away all of this tape, and then I just take that bare aluminum conductor and I snip it off right here where it comes out of the metal sheath. Then I use the proper type fitting, and I take that fitting and I put it over the metal cladding, and now it is good for grounding and bonding. And of course, I insert it inside of my box and terminate it. So I do not have to carry that bare conductor inside the box to terminate it, nor do I have to use any special provisions to terminate it on the inside of the fitting. Okay. And so that brings up fittings. Let's talk a little bit about fittings. All of my fittings, 330.6, if you were to check 330.6, let's see here. It tells me that everything has to be listed and identified for use when it comes to MC cable. So we are using the 2020 version of the NEC, as always, the latest version. And 330.6 says type MC cable shall be listed. Fittings used for connecting type MC cable to boxes, cabinets, or other equipment shall be listed and identified for use. Well, if we were to take a look at something, that fitting that I just had, for example, I look on here and I see it says UL. Okay, it doesn't give me much other information. Oh, on the other side, it does say dry only. So I can only use this fitting on my MC cable in a dry location. And other than that, it doesn't say much. Can I use this if I'm going to have that bare aluminum wire that I'm using as my equipment grounding conductor? Can I use this type of fitting with it? Well, it's got to be identified for use. It doesn't have to be on the fitting itself, right? It could be on the smallest container that it comes in, whether that be a plastic bag, or if I'm buying 100 or 200 of them at a time, that would be on the box itself. So it's kind of interesting. Let's take a look at, for instance, here's it says dry locations only on it. It's got the UL label. This is a 90-degree fitting then. Other than that, there's not much information on there. So I have to look at the container that it came in. Let's see what it says on it. It says, well, it's got the UL label on it. It says 90-degree fitting, connector for 3/8" flex. Okay, so I don't size my fittings for MC cable based on 10-2 or whatever it is. I size it based on the outer diameter of the cable itself. So anyway, so this particular one is good for 3/8". And then it says AC, which would be armored cable. Okay, that's fine. And then it references MC cable, but it doesn't say type MC. It says MCI and MCI-A. What is that all about? Okay, so the MCI-A, the MCI would just simply be metal-clad cable. Then the MCI-A tells me that it's the metal-clad cable, and it would have the aluminum conductor coming out that I could then put my fitting on, and that would give me bonding for my equipment grounding conductor. So if that's the case, if that's what I'm going to be doing, using that additional equipment bonding conductor, I call it, inside the MC cable, where it makes contact with the entire run of the MC cable, then my fitting has to be listed as MCI-A. So different types of fittings, whatever you need, you can buy it. And the same is true with the MC cable itself. The MC The UL standard, the UL 1569 standard covers the construction specifications and testing requirements and so forth for MC cable. I can get MC cable. This, for instance, has a number 14 ungrounded conductor, a number 14 grounded conductor, and the 14 AWG equipment grounding conductor, and of course the plastic sheath around it. Now, I can buy it with any combination of conductors I want on the inside. I can get it with an upsized neutral if I need to account for harmonic issues. I can get it with optical fiber cable. I can get it with both power and control cables on the inside of it, where they'll be each separated by the binder, each type of cable. So I do get proper separation inside the MC cable. I can buy it with just one conductor if I want to. I can buy it with insulation rated up to all the way up to 35,000 volts. Now, from 2001, so this particular MC cable and its conductors and so forth, the MC cable itself is covered in Article 330. If my insulation on my MC cable is rated from 2001 on up to 35,000 volts, then I have to go to Article 311, which addresses medium voltage cable. So we use a lot of MC cable out in industrial facilities that's rated, well, all the way up to 35,000 volts. However, we usually don't refer to it oftentimes as MC cable. We probably just call it MV cable, okay, medium voltage cable. So anyway, insulation types, and for the 16 and 18, I have to go for the insulation types and the ampacity values. I'm going to end up back in my fixture wire article, Article 402, where Table 402.3 is going to cover the different types of insulation I can use at 16 and 18 AWG. For my 14 and larger copper or 12 and larger aluminum, I'll go to Article 310, specifically 310.14, in order to determine ampacity values for these conductors. And then for the medium voltage, the 2001 to 35,000 volts, once again, I have to go to Article 311 for ampacity ratings on my conductors. Now, one thing that is not in the UL standard, nor is it in the National Electrical Code, is color coding requirements on the metal sheathing itself. Right? So depends on the manufacturer. If it is a metal sheath, they will use a blue stripe around it. If it is an aluminum sheath, they'll use a gray stripe around it. And then they may use different color stripes for the different size conductors on the inside, and number of conductors, and so forth. One of the most common color codes that we run into is green. And we say, oh, that's for healthcare facilities. Well, okay, let's talk about that a little bit. Now, there's nothing in the code book that says I have to use green, or in the UL standard, or in fact in NFPA 99 for healthcare facilities, that says I have to use metal-clad cable with a green outer finish in healthcare facilities. In healthcare facilities, 517, Article 517, is going to take us to 517.13. 517.13 talks about this equipment grounding conductor and patient care spaces. So in patient care spaces in hospitals, I have to have two equipment grounding conductors. I have to have a redundant equipment grounding conductor. So what I can do is, in a healthcare facility, if I'm going to use some in patient care spaces, I'll use the green insulation. That will be one equipment grounding conductor then. And then if I have that conductor that runs the entire length, the bare conductor, that makes my sheath the equipment grounding conductor as well, then I can certainly use that. And that type of cable, often referred to as health for, specifically manufactured for our applications, will have that green color to it. So anyway, be aware of that. Not required, but pretty common then. And then they can use other color codings as well. So we've talked a lot about metal-clad cable so far, how it's constructed, the three types of sheaths that we can have, conductors on the inside, the transparent plastic tape that binds my conductors together and so forth. It's used as an equipment grounding conductor where we go to find insulation and ampacity information and so forth. And let's talk about where we can use it, maybe where we can't use it. 330.10, right? We know that .10 is going to cover uses permitted. So let's take a look in the code book then, in our 2020 code book at 330.10, uses permitted. Well, it gives me a bunch of actually, 12 different general use provisions, some specific uses. I can use it in cable tray. I can use it underground if it's identified for that use. I can bury it in concrete if it's identified for use as well. My general provisions, then, I can use it for services, feeders, branch circuits, power, lighting, indoors, outdoors, direct buried where identified for use, as we said. I can use it in cable tray. I can use it inside of any raceway. I can use it in hazardous classified locations, MCHL, suitable for use in hazardous locations, in other words. So we'd have to go back to chapter 5 to our hazardous classified locations articles and find where we can specifically use our MCHL cable with the appropriate listed fittings, of course. I can use it as aerial cable on a messenger, in dry locations embedded in plaster and finished on brick, in wet locations where a corrosion-resistant jacket is provided over the metallic covering. Uses not permitted should make some sense to me. At least the first one, we're subject to physical damage. I wouldn't want to use MC cable, anything that's going to be damaged. Now, .30 is my support requirements. Support requirements, general support requirements, every 6 feet. And it has to be secured within 12 inches of a box. Two different words, securing and supporting them. Supporting, if I take my MC cable and I run it through some framing members, metal type framing members that already had the holes in them, and I just run it through there and lay my cable in there in those holes, that's support. I haven't secured it to anything. But then when I go into my box, within 12 inches of that box, I'm going to have to get a strap or some other device and secure that cable probably to that metal framing member or wherever it is I'm working. So those requirements are covered in 330.30. 330.80 talks about my ampacity requirements, where we've already mentioned some of the particulars of that. And then that takes us into part 3, which we've already talked about, which is our construction specification requirements then. So I think I pretty well talked myself out on metal-clad cable for today. There's still a lot more information. So you need to get into your index to find out a lot more information about metal-clad cable in your National Electrical Code. And so that's it for this Tech Talk. Remember, this is brought to you by EC&M Magazine, which is a part of the portfolio for Endeavor Business Publications. And make sure you sign up for that premium content, by the way, at ecmweb.com. And then the most important thing is that you go out there and you work safely, whether you're working with MC cable or whatever you're doing. You work safely. Why? So that you can make it to the next Tech Talk. Then we'll see you there.